In this video, I'm going to show you how to scan images into your patient's file and also how to create encounter notes. Now, this video is just pretty much an extension of the module you just watched, just to go a little bit more into detail on how to exactly do things in TheraOffice when it comes to scanning and creating encounter notes. So the first thing you want to do is you want to log into your TheraOffice documentation, which is the blue one. Once you logged in, you want to search for a patient. So we're going to search for our test patient, which is John Doe. And you can do the same thing if you want to practice before you actually start scanning into an actual patient's chart, just to practice a little bit. Once you click on the patient's name, it will direct you to the patient's file. Now keep in mind that each patient's file will look different depending on how many times the patient has come in and how many images you have scanned in. So the more times the patient has come in, the bigger the file is going to be, and the more images you have scanned in, the bigger the file is going to be. So the first thing you want to always remember is we scan everything into the first date of service. Now, the reason why we scan everything into the first date of service is imagine if this patient had been coming into your office for 3 months and they have a lot of visits. Now, that means the chart is going to be very, very large. Imagine if all these things that are scanned in, if they were scanned into different dates of service, they would be all over the place. It'd be a headache to find anything. So that's why we like to scan everything into the first date of service so it's more organized and very easy to find. So first I'm going to show you how to scan an image and then I'll show you how to create encounter notes. They're very similar, there's just one little difference to them. So in order to scan an image, you want to click on the date of service where you want the image file to appear. So since we like to scan things under the first date of service, I'm going to click on this first date of service here. I'm going to come to the top here where it says new item, then choose new document, and this will lead you to another window. Now in this window, you're going to choose whether it's going to be a flex note or an image note. If you were a provider or therapist trying to do this, here in this window, you will have a lot more options because as a therapist, you're able to create initial evaluations, you're able to create daily notes and also discharges. So here you're going to have a lot more options. If you're just a manager, you can only create either flex notes or image notes. Since we're going to scan something in, we're going to choose image note. And you can think of it as you're scanning in an image. So that's why you choose image note. Now, since we had already chosen here the date of service where we want it to appear, it's going to automatically generate that date of service. So this is where it's going to scan under. If you change your mind, you can always come here and change it, or you can create a completely new entry date. So we're going to leave it like that so it scans under the first date of service, and in this section we're going to name it. So here we're just going to name it for now test because we're testing it out, but this is where you would name it whatever it is that you want it to show on the patient's file. So make sure you name it something that you know exactly what's scanned in. Once you name it, you're going to click OK. And this is going to lead you to a blank image file that looks like this. So this literally means that there's nothing scanned in. Once you're ready to scan something in, you can put the documents into your scanner. You're going to click up here where it says Scan Capture. You're going to choose your source, which scanner you're going to use. Now this window will look different depending on the brand of your scanner. Okay, but they all kind of have the same format. You're gonna choose whether it's black and white, gray, color, some of the settings. You either want to leave it with the regular settings, or you want to play around with it a little bit. You want to make sure that whatever settings you use, that it makes your images look good, that when they print out nice and dark, and you want to make sure that the images like licenses and insurance cards come out clear. Sometimes with the black and white, the license might come out too dark. You would have to use a grayscale, but that depends on your scanner. So once you're okay with the settings, you're going to click scan and it'll scan your image right away and it'll appear on here. It only shows, if it's multiple pages, it will only show page by page. So you're going to have to click up here if you want to look at all the pages, either to next page or previous page. You can delete pages, you can rotate, resize, crop. Another thing that's very neat is that you can import. So let's say somebody sends you an email or with a PDF file of medical records for the patient, just to give you an example, you can save that file into your computer and you can just import it. You don't have to worry about spending ink or paper or time in having to print it out and then scanning it and then shredding it. You just import it directly into the patient's image file. Remember to always click save when you're done. If you don't save it, it's if you don't save it and you try to open it again, it's going to look just like this because it didn't save whatever images you scanned in. So it's very important that you save it. Either way, before you close it, it'll always ask you if you want to save it before closing it. So just make sure that it does save. We're just going to close it. Okay, so once it's scanned in, it'll appear right here. You see, test. Now, if you notice, it's not locked like the other ones are. So you want to make it a habit that you click on it and you always lock items that you scan in. The same way therapists have to lock their notes when they're completed, you have to lock your scanned images. Now, the only time I don't suggest for you to lock an image that you scanned in is if you know that you're going to keep adding on to that same file. You can leave it unlocked so that you're able to keep scanning in. Because once you lock it, you can't edit and you can't scan any more pages into it. But you're always free to unlock it if you need to. Okay, so the reason why we want to lock things is because if for any reason you want to send out medical records in bulk or you want to print everything in bulk, you don't have to go one by one. Or let's say you have the fax is you can use the fax through their office as well. Let's say you have that available. The only way that you can do that is if it's locked. And the reason why is because to be able to do that, you have to come here to where it says locked documents. If the image or the note is not locked, it won't appear under locked documents. Only the notes and the images that are locked will appear here. So if you're going to send out all these medical records and there's something that's not locked, it won't appear here and you're going to miss that. So let's say you're sending out MRI reports. If you don't have your MRI reports locked, they're not going to show up here and you're going to miss it. So you definitely want to make sure that everything is locked and everything so that everything can show up here. You can either export. So let's say you want to send an email with medical records, you can export the images. You just choose what you want to export, or you can export the entire thing, and it'll export in a PDF format. You can fax if you have that feature set up with their office. You don't have to unless you want to. And you can also print if you want to print all of this at once. Okay, and then if you click on something, you can have a little preview down here. Now I'm going to go back to the patient's full chart so I can teach you how to do encounter notes. Okay, so encounter notes, we always do them also on the first date of service. I click on the date. I come up to new item, new document, same thing as if you were going to scan. But the difference between scanning and creating an encounter note is if for scanning you would choose image note, but for encounter notes you're going to create a flex note. And a flex note is kind of like just creating a Word document, a blank Word document that you can type up whatever you want. So like I said, we already clicked on the date. We're going to call it encounter notes. And we're going to click OK. Now this is going to send you to a blank flex note. It's going to have your logo on the top, the patient's information, and it's just going to be blank, pretty much free for you to type up whatever it is that you want. And like I mentioned in the module, the reasons why we use encounter notes is so you're able to document everything. Anything that has to do with the patient, you would type the date. Let's pretend let's just pretend. And then you can type up called patient and left voicemail. Okay, and you write your initials always. And you just keep on. You keep on typing up things. You can type up another date. Maybe the next day the patient called you back. Patient called back and rescheduled for Friday at 5 p.m. And you write your initials. And you always want to write the date so you know what date that happened. And you always want to write your initials so that whoever, if anybody else comes back here and looks at your notes, they know who wrote that note. So encounter notes are extremely important. I make a huge deal about this the more descriptive you are in your encounter notes, the better it is. A lot of managers have trouble doing this because they'll call the patient, or they'll talk to the patient, or they'll talk to the patient's attorney or to a doctor, or they'll schedule and reschedule the patient, and they won't write it here. So then when it comes to explaining yourself or knowing when was the last time that you tried contacting the patient, it's very difficult because you never wrote encounter notes on it. So it's extremely important that you write everything. Anything that has to do with the patient, you type it up here. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be the most simple thing or the most complicated thing. Sometimes I find myself writing paragraphs just explaining what happened, especially if it's things that are very complicated, maybe things with the insurance, or maybe some issues that the patient had. If the patient needed transportation and I set it up, I would type it up here to make sure. So it's not only a way for you to keep organized, but it's also a way for you to back yourself up. So if anything goes wrong or something happens, you have proof here that you did do the work. So it's extremely important. Trust me, this has really helped me a bunch of times. So that's why I make such a big deal about it. Now remember to always save it, and once you're done typing up what you need to type, you can close it. And this one we leave unlocked. So here it comes out in counter notes. We leave this one unlocked because you want to be able to go in and keep typing things in. This is really for personal use, so you don't have to lock this item. You can leave it unlocked. Once you lock it, you're not gonna be able to add anything else to it. So as you can see, it just comes out here. It's a little bit different from the image. So the image icon looks like this one, and then the encounter notes looks like this one, which are flex notes. That way you know which is what. And that's pretty much it when it comes to creating image notes into your patient's file and also creating encounter notes.